My mom's glass clinked against hers, and the whole dining room went quiet, like somebody hit mute. She smiled at me, tight, polite, deadly, and said, "Let's raise a toast to the child who stayed." My dad didn't even look embarrassed. He just nodded toward my brother Ryan like I wasn't even sitting there. Then he finally turned to me and said the line I still hear in my sleep. "You chose to move away. You chose to be replaced." And right as everyone lifted their glasses, my phone buzzed in my pocket with a notification that made my stomach drop. Because it wasn't just a toast, it was a confession. And if you were in my shoes, would you blow up the whole table right then? Or would you wait and make it hurt worse? But to understand how I ended up standing in my childhood dining room, hands shaking, jaw locked, heart doing that frantic rabbit thump thing, let me take you back to the very first time my parents taught me what family meant to them. It started with a suitcase. Not the dramatic kind where you're leaving forever, just the regular kind, half-sipped, sitting on my bedroom floor with my childhood posters peeling off the wall behind it. I was 22, fresh out of college, and I had a job offer in a city 3 hours away. It wasn't glamorous, entry-level, but it was mine. Health insurance, a steady paycheck, a chance to build something without asking permission. I came downstairs that morning feeling nervous but proud. The kitchen smelled like burnt toast and black coffee. My mom was at the counter scrolling her phone like her thumb was racing for an Olympic medal. My dad was in his chair, already in his work boots, reading the paper like it was 1995. I cleared my throat. "So I accepted the job," I said, forcing the cheer into my voice. "I start in 2 weeks." My mom didn't look up. My dad lowered the paper just enough to stare over the top. "In that city?" "Yes," I said. "The one we talked about. It's a good opportunity. It's far," my mom cut in, finally looking up like I'd offended her personally. "Why would you go that far?" I blinked. "Because the job is there." My dad snorted. "Plenty of jobs here." I wanted to laugh, not because it was funny, because it was so obviously not true. In our town, plenty of jobs meant working retail until your knees gave up, or waiting tables until you stopped smiling, or begging your uncle to hire you in his warehouse. I kept my voice calm. "I already tried here, for months. This is the first offer I got in my field." My mom pressed her lips together. "Your field, right." Then Ryan walked in, and everything changed. Ryan was 20, 2 years younger than me, and he had that effortless confidence. "That's not what I said." My mom sighed, dramatic like a soap opera. "You know, Ryan's been talking about taking some online classes, staying local, being smart about it." Ryan smiled like a kid getting praised for breathing. I stared at them. "I'm not leaving because I think I'm too good. I'm leaving because I'm trying to build a life." My dad slapped the paper down. "And what about your family? What about helping here? We have bills, we have responsibilities." Here's the thing. I had been helping. Since I was 16, I'd been working weekends. Since I was 18, I'd been paying my own phone bill. Since I came home from college on breaks, I'd been the one buying groceries when my mom would forget her wallet. But the moment I wanted something for myself, suddenly I was selfish. Tell me honestly, have you ever had someone treat your success like betrayal? I glanced at Ryan, waiting for him to say something like, "Hey, good for you." Anything, a crumb. Instead he said, "So who's gonna help Dad with the garage now?" My mom immediately jumped on it. Exactly. I looked from face to face, feeling like I'd walked into a room where everyone agreed I was the villain. "I'll still come home," I said carefully. "I'm not disappearing. My dad leaned forward, eyes sharp. "If you go, don't come crawling back." The room went cold. Even the fridge hum sounded louder. I swallowed. "I'm not planning to crawl." My mom's voice turned sweetly. "We just want you to understand, choices have consequences." I didn't realize until much later that my parents had been practicing that line.
2 weeks later, I loaded my car in the driveway. The air smelled like early fall, crisp leaves and someone's chimney smoke. I kept waiting for that movie moment where my mom would run out and hug me, whisper she was proud. Instead, she handed me a plastic container of leftover pasta, like I was a neighbor leaving after a barbecue. My dad didn't even step outside. He watched from the living room window, arms crossed. Ryan leaned against my car, scrolling his phone, and said, "Don't forget us when you're rich." I laughed weakly. "I won't." He smirked. "Sure." And as I backed out of the driveway, my mom finally said, "Remember, this was your choice." I drove away with my throat burning and my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. You'd think the pain would fade once I started my new life. It didn't. At first, I tried so hard to stay connected. I called every Sunday. I texted pictures of my tiny apartment, the mismatched couch, the plant I kept accidentally almost killing. I sent my mom links to kitchen gadgets like, "Look, this would make your life easier." Her replies got shorter. "Nice. Okay. Busy." When I called, she'd say, "Can't talk, your father needs me," even though I could hear the TV in the background. My dad would take the phone sometimes, but the conversations felt like job interviews. "How's work?" "Fine." "You saving money?" "Yes." "Good." Then he'd say, "Ryan's doing great," and launch into a 10-minute update about my brother's latest plan. A plan to start a podcast, a plan to flip sneakers, a plan to start a car detailing business. Plans that never turned into anything except my parents' praise. One Sunday, I mentioned I'd gotten a small raise. My mom said, "That's nice," like I told her the weather. Then she added, "Ryan's thinking about going back to school. We might help him with tuition." I waited for her to say, "We're proud of you too." She didn't. And that's when I realized something was seriously wrong. Not with me, with the story they were telling about me. Because in their story, I didn't move away to grow. I moved away to abandon them. And if you frame someone as an abandoner, you're allowed to punish them. The punishment started small. I came home for Thanksgiving that first year. The house looked the same from the outside. Same chipped paint on the porch railing, same wind chimes clinking in the breeze. But inside, it felt different. My childhood photos, gone from the hallway. The framed picture of me in my graduation cap, gone from the living room. The shelf where my soccer trophies sat, empty. I tried not to overreact. Maybe my mom redecorated. Maybe she moved stuff. Then I went upstairs, and my bedroom door was open. My bedspread was gone. The posters were gone. My desk was gone. In their place, a treadmill. A freaking treadmill. I stood in the doorway like my brain had stepped out for a second. My mom appeared behind me carrying towels. "Oh, you're up here." "What happened to my room?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She blinked like she didn't understand the question. "We needed space. Ryan's been working out more." "And you're not here anymore." I laughed once, short and stunned. "My stuff?" "In the garage," she said casually, "in boxes." "In the garage," I repeated, because it didn't feel real. My dad's voice floated up the stairs. "Dinner!" My mom started walking away and tossed over her shoulder. "You can sleep on the couch, like a guest." Like a guest. Tell me, if you came home and found out you'd been erased, would you pretend it didn't hurt? At dinner, Ryan acted like nothing happened. He shoveled mashed potatoes into his mouth and said, "So how's the city life?" "It's fine," I said, watching my dad carve the turkey like it was a ritual sacrifice. Ryan grinned. "Mom said you're always busy now." My mom didn't deny it. She just smiled down at her plate. I wanted to scream. "I call you every week. You ignore me." Instead, I said, "Work's been busy, yeah." My dad finally looked at me. "Busy enough to forget where you come from." My fork paused midair. "I haven't forgotten." He leaned back. "Funny, feels like we did." The table went quiet. The only sound was the clink of my mom's ring against her glass as she picked up her water. I looked at Ryan, hoping again for that crumb. He shrugged, like, "Not my problem." And that night, I slept on the couch with my feet hanging off the end, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slow, wondering when my family became a place I had to earn access to. The next year, it got worse. Christmas rolled around, and I got a group text. "We're keeping it small this year. Don't drive in bad weather." I checked the forecast. Clear skies. I replied, "I can still come." My mom replied, "No need. We'll FaceTime." On Christmas morning, I sat in my apartment holding my phone like it might bite me. When the FaceTime connected, I saw my parents on the couch, and Ryan in the middle, and next to him, a girl I didn't recognize. My mom beamed. "Look who's here." Ryan brought Lily. Lily waved awkwardly. "Hi." I forced a smile. "Hi, nice to meet you." My dad lifted his mug toward the camera like a toast. "Family's growing." Ryan smirked. "Yeah, guess you're missing out." Then I saw it, behind them, on the wall above the fireplace, a framed photo. Ryan in a cap and gown. I blinked. "Wait, you graduated?" Ryan shrugged. "Online certification." My mom laughed like it was adorable. He worked so hard. I stared at the screen. And you framed it. My mom's smile flickered. Of course, he's here. We get to celebrate him. That sentence hit me like a slap. He's here. As if my worth depended on proximity. As if love was a reward for staying put. And that's when I started noticing something else. Something I wish I'd noticed sooner. My parents didn't miss me. They missed what I provided. Because a week later, my dad called. Not my mom, not Ryan. My dad. His voice was tight. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. Is everything okay? He cleared his throat. The furnace is acting up. It might need replacing. I waited. Okay? It's expensive, he said. There it was. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't ask if I was lonely on Christmas. He called because the furnace needed money. I swallowed and tried not to sound bitter. How much are we talking? Couple thousand, he said quickly, but we'll pay you back. I stared at my wall, at the little crack near the window I kept meaning to fix. You've never paid me back before. Silence. Then his tone sharpened. So you're saying no? I'm saying, I need to think, I said. He exhaled like I disappointed him on purpose. Mayan's been helping around here. He does what he can. I almost laughed. Ryan couldn't even help himself. My dad continued. We thought you'd want to contribute since you're doing so well. So well. Like I was some rich stranger they could guilt. I said quietly, I can sense something. Not a couple thousand, but something. My dad's voice softened instantly. Good, that's what family does. After I sent the money, I sat on my kitchen floor and stared at my bank app, feeling stupid. And then 2 days later, my phone buzzed. It was a Venmo notification. From Ryan. For $120. Caption. For Lily's birthday dinner, thanks. I blinked, convinced it was a joke. It wasn't. I texted him. Did you mean to request money from me? He replied, yeah, you're not here. Least you can do. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Tell me, how do you argue with someone who thinks you owe them for existing? That night, I did something I hadn't done before. I stopped asking to be loved, and I started paying attention. Because if my parents were willing to erase me emotionally, what else were they willing to erase? The answer came in the spring when a letter showed up at my apartment. Not an email, not a text, a physical letter. From a bank. I almost tossed it aside with the junk mail, but my name was printed on it in bold, official font. I opened it standing by my trash can, half reading. Then my heart slammed into my ribs. Final notice. Account delinquent. Past due amount, $8,740. I reread it 3 times, waiting for my brain to correct itself. I didn't have a loan with that bank. I didn't have an account with that bank. My hand shook as I flipped to the next page. It listed a business name I didn't recognize, and then under cosigner/guarantor, my name, my full legal name. The air in my apartment felt thin, like the oxygen got offended and laughed. I sat down hard on the edge of my couch. Okay, I whispered to myself. Okay, this is a mistake. But you know that feeling, when your gut knows it's not a mistake, when your body reacts before your mind catches up? I grabbed my phone and called the bank number. After 10 minutes of hold music that sounded like torture in piano form, a woman answered. I gave her the reference number, my voice tight. She posed. Yes, I see the account. I don't, I said. I don't have this loan. She read out details like she was reading a grocery list. Loan opened, last year. Purpose, small business startup. Borrower, Ryan Mitchell. My throat went dry. My brother? Yes, she said. And you are listed as cosigner. I didn't sign anything, I said sharply. There was a pause. We have documentation on file. My palms were sweaty. Can you email me the documents? She hesitated. We can mail copies to the address on file. What address? I snapped. She read my parents' address. Of course. I took a shaky breath. Please send them to my current address. I can verify identity, whatever you need. After a security process that felt like being interrogated for a crime I didn't commit, she agreed. When I hung up, my apartment was silent except for the buzzing in my ears. Ryan. Alone. My name. And suddenly, that furnace call didn't feel random anymore. If you were me, what would you do next? Call your parents screaming or play it smart? I played it smart. I didn't call them right away.
Instead, I opened my laptop and started digging. I pulled my credit report. My stomach dropped again. There were inquiries I didn't recognize. A credit card opened in my name. A balance I never spent. A business line of credit tied to that same bank. I felt like I was watching someone dismantle my life with a screwdriver. And the worst part? The dates. All of it started right after I moved away, right after I wasn't there to catch it. I drove home that weekend without telling anyone. The highway was gray and wet, the sky low and heavy like it was pressing down on the world. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight they ached. I rehearsed 100 versions of the confrontation. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe it's identity theft. Maybe someone else did it. But deep down, I knew exactly who someone else was. When I pulled into the driveway, my dad's truck was there. Ryan's car too, newer than I remembered. Interesting. I walked inside without knocking because it used to be my home. The smell hit me first. Laundry detergent and fried food, familiar and suddenly disgusting. My mom came out of the kitchen, startled. "Oh, you're here." "Yeah," I said, voice flat. "We need to talk." Her face tightened immediately like she sensed danger. "About what?" I held up the bank letter. "About this." She glanced at it and her eyes flicked away too fast. That was all I needed. My dad appeared from the hallway. "What's going on?" I stepped toward him, holding out the letter like evidence in court. "Why is my name on Ryan's business loan?" Ryan came down the stairs behind him, chewing gum, smug already. "Oh my God, seriously." I turned to him. "Did you forge my signature?" He scoffed. "No." My mom raised her hands like peace signs. "Let's not use words like that." "Then what word should I use?" I snapped. "Because the bank says I'm a co-signer, and I never signed anything." My dad's jaw worked like he was chewing anger. "We needed help." I stared at him. "You needed help, so you committed fraud?" My mom stepped closer, voice low and urgent. "Don't say fraud. Ryan had an opportunity. We didn't want him to miss it." "And you thought, slowly, I should pay for it?" Ryan rolled his eyes. "You always make everything dramatic." I laughed, sharp and humorless. "Dramatic? Ryan, I could get sued. My credit is wrecked." He shrugged. "So fix it." "Fix it?" I repeated, my voice rising. "Fix what you broke?" My dad slammed his hand on the wall by the staircase. "Enough." The house shook with it. My mom flinched. My dad pointed at me. "You left. You moved away. You weren't here. We did what we had to do." My throat tightened. "You did what you had to do by using me?" My mom's eyes flashed. "We raised you. We fed you. We gave you everything." I stared at her. "You gave me guilt. That's what you gave me." Ryan stepped forward, chin lifted. "You act like you're some victim. You're the one who ran off to chase some city dream." I stepped closer until we were inches apart. "I didn't run off. I built something, and you stole from it." He smirked. "Prove it." That smugness, it lit something inside me. Because he didn't know what I had already started collecting. I took a breath, forcing my voice calm. "I want copies of every document you used. Now." My dad scoffed. "We don't have to give you anything." "Actually," I said, meeting his eyes, "you do. Because if I report this, the bank will investigate, and it won't just be Ryan in trouble." My mom's face went pale. "Don't do that." My dad's voice turned cold. "You wouldn't." I tilted my head. "Wouldn't I?" That was the first time I saw it. Fear. Just a flicker. But it was there. And I knew right then, they weren't angry because I was wrong. They were angry because I was finally difficult to control. I left that day without resolution. No apology, no plan. Just my mom standing in the doorway saying, "Please don't make this bigger than it needs to be." As if my life being hijacked was a small inconvenience. In the weeks that followed, I did what my parents never expected me to do. I took action. I filed a fraud alert with the credit bureaus. I opened a new bank account. I froze my credit. Then I hired an attorney. Not some fancy celebrity lawyer, just a practical woman named Denise with sharp eyes and a voice that could cut glass. I sat in her office, hands wrapped around a paper cup of water, and told her everything. When I finished, she leaned back and said, "You have two choices. You can negotiate quietly, or you can pursue criminal and civil action." I swallowed. Criminal? Against my family? Denise's expression didn't change. They committed identity theft. Family doesn't make it not a crime. That sentence hit me harder than it should have. Family doesn't make it not a crime. Because for years, family was the excuse for everything. Family is why you should tolerate disrespect. Family is why you should forgive without change. Family is why you should stay small. Denise slid a folder toward me. "We need evidence. Documents, messages, anything showing they knew you didn't consent." I nodded slowly, my brain already racing. And here's where the story takes a turn you probably won't see coming. Because while I was gathering evidence against them, I found something they didn't even know I had. Back when I graduated college, my grandmother, my dad's mom, had pulled me aside at my graduation party. She had smelled like lavender and old books, and she held my hands in hers like she was anchoring me. She said, "Your father won't tell you this, but I'm proud of you." I'd smiled, confused. "Thank you." Then she'd leaned in and whispered, "And I want you protected." She pressed an envelope into my hand. "Don't open this here. Open it when you're alone." I tucked it into my bag and forgotten about it in the chaos of moving. Until now. One night, while digging through an old storage bin looking for paperwork, I found the envelope again. Yellowed edges, my name written in my grandmother's careful script. My heart thudded as I opened it. Inside was a copy of a document. A deed. To my parents' house. And my name was on it. Not as an occupant. Not as a witness. As a co-owner. 50%. I stared at it for a full minute, not breathing. Then I whispered, "What?" There was also a letter from my grandmother. It was short. She wrote that when my parents were struggling years ago, she helped them with the down payment, but only under one condition, that I be placed on the deed as protection, because she didn't trust my father to be fair. She ended the letter with, "If they ever make you feel like you have no place, remember, you legally do." I sat on my floor again. Apparently, my life's biggest moments happen on my floor, and laughed through tears. Because my parents had been acting like they owned the right to replace me, but legally, they couldn't erase me even if they tried. And now, I had leverage. Tell me, if you found out you owned half the house your parents were using to control you, would you tell them right away, or would you wait for the perfect moment? I waited. Because the perfect moment showed up on a random Tuesday in July. My mom actually called, and her voice was too cheerful, which immediately set off my internal alarm. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, like we were best friends who'd never fought. I didn't match her energy. "What's going on?" She laughed lightly. "We're having a family dinner this weekend. Ryan has news, big news." I pictured Ryan's smug face. "What kind of news?" "Oh, you'll see," she sang. "Just come. It would mean so much to your father." Translation, "We need you." I kept my voice neutral. "Okay, I'll come." My mom exhaled in relief. "Good. And don't bring up all that stressful stuff. Let's just have a nice night." I almost said, "Like you had a nice night when you put my life on a loan." Instead, I said, "Sure." When I hung up, I called Denise. "They're inviting me to a family dinner," I said. "It feels like a setup." Denise didn't miss a beat. "It is, but setups work both ways." So we planned. By Saturday, I drove into my childhood neighborhood with Denise's folder in my passenger seat. The sun was bright, but my stomach felt stormy. My hands were steady, though, because fear was slowly being replaced by something else. Clarity. The house looked cheerful when I arrived, string lights on the porch, music drifting out through the screen door. Like it wanted to pretend nothing was rotten inside. When I walked in, my mom actually hugged me, and whispered, "Be nice tonight. Be nice." Like the problem was my reaction, not their actions. The dining room table was set like it was Thanksgiving. Candles, cloth napkins, plates that only came out for guests. There were guests too. My aunt and uncle, Ryan's girlfriend Lily, and a man in a suit I didn't recognize sitting near the end of the table. I felt my pulse spike. Why is there a man in a suit? My dad clapped me on the shoulder too hard. "You made it." Ryan grinned at me like a cat. "Hey, sis." I smiled back, sweet. "Hey." We ate. The conversation was forced, polite. My aunt asked about my job. I answered. My mom nodded like she cared. Then dessert came out, my mom's famous chocolate pie, and my dad stood. He tapped his fork against his glass. Clink, clink, clink. That sound still makes my skin prickle. Everyone looked up. My dad smiled, wide and proud. "We have an announcement." Ryan sat up straighter. Lily squeezed his hand. My mom's eyes flicked to me, then away. My dad continued. "Ryan and Lily are moving in." Everyone applauded. Ryan smirked at me like, "See, I stayed. I won." My dad raised his glass. "To the child who stayed, the child who chose family." Then my mom said it, the line,
You chose to move away, she said, looking right at me, voice steady. You chose to be replaced. And that's when my phone buzzed. A notification from my email. Subject line, loan documents, signature verification complete. I didn't open it yet. I didn't need to, because I already knew. I looked around the table at all their smiling faces, the candlelight flickering like a scene from a movie, and I realized this wasn't just a dinner. This was a ceremony. They were announcing my replacement like it was an achievement. And sitting at the end of the table, that man in the suit. He wasn't a guest. He was a real estate agent. My throat went cold. They weren't just moving Ryan in. They were doing something bigger. My dad lifted his glass higher. Ryan has stepped up. He's going to take over the house one day. My aunt gasped happily. Oh, how wonderful. Ryan leaned back, satisfied. Yeah, Mom and Dad said they're putting things in order. Putting things in order. Meaning cutting me out. My mom finally spoke again, and her voice was warm as honey. We want everything to go to the people who are here. I set my fork down quietly. No one noticed. My dad nodded at the man in the suit. And Mr. Jennings here is helping us with some paperwork. We're making changes. My heart beats slow and heavy now, like a drum before battle. Tell me, would you speak up right now, in front of everyone, knowing it could destroy the family image? Or would you swallow it and let them erase you legally too? I stood up. The chair scraped against the floor, loud. Every head turned toward me. My mom's eyes widened. What are you doing? I smiled politely. Since we're doing toasts, I thought I'd add one. My dad's face tightened. Sit down. I didn't. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder, Denise's folder, and set it on the table. The candlelight flickered off the glossy paper. Ryan's smirk faltered. I looked at my aunt and uncle first. I didn't come here to ruin dinner, but I'm not going to let a lie sit on this table like dessert. My mom's voice turned sharp. What lie? I opened the folder and slid out the bank letter. Then another page, my credit report summary. Then carefully, the copy of the deed. I placed them one by one like cards in a game. My dad's eyes locked on the deed, and his face drained of color so fast it was almost impressive. Ryan leaned forward. What is that? I met his gaze. That, Ryan, is the house you think you're inheriting. Mr. Jennings, the agent, shifted uncomfortably. My aunt frowned. What's going on? My mom stood up too, panicked now. This is not the time. Oh, it's the perfect time, I said calmly. Because you all keep saying I chose to leave, like I abandoned them. I tapped the bank letter. But while I was building my life, they used my identity to co-sign Ryan's business loans and open credit lines, without my consent. My uncle's mouth fell open. What? Ryan snapped. That's not true. I turned the folder toward him. The bank disagrees. My mom's hands trembled. We were going to tell you. When? I cut in. After my wages were garnished? After I got sued? After my credit was ruined beyond repair? My dad slammed his glass down. You ungrateful. I raised my hand. Not loud, but firm. No, you don't get to call me ungrateful while you commit fraud in my name. The table was silent, except for the candle wick popping softly. I looked at my aunt and uncle again. They invited you here because they wanted witnesses for their good family moment. So be witnesses for this too. My mom's eyes filled with tears. Real or weaponized, I couldn't tell. We did what we had to do. Ryan needed help. My aunt shook her head slowly. You used her name? Ryan's face went red. She's acting like I'm some criminal. It was guilt. Because she'd always known. My dad finally snapped. That doesn't matter. It's our house. I shook my head. Legally? No, it's ours. Then I opened my phone and pulled up the bank notification.
I also have the bank's signature verification, I said, meaning the bank can confirm whether I signed those loans. Ryan swallowed hard. My aunt whispered, "Oh my God." My dad stepped toward me, voice low like a threat. "You wouldn't do this to us in front of everyone." I stared at him, my heart steady now. "You did this to yourselves. You left first." My mom gasped. "We didn't leave you."
I laughed softly. "You packed my stuff into the garage. You took my photos off your walls. You turned my room into a treadmill and told me to sleep like a guest. You replaced me emotionally long before you tried to replace me legally." My voice shook just a little, not from fear, just from the weight of finally saying it out loud. Then I said the sentence that changed everything. "I'm not here to beg for a place at your table," I said. "I'm here to reclaim what you tried to take." I slid another paper out of the folder, Denise's prepared notice. "This is a demand for repayment and removal from any accounts opened in my name," I said, "and if it's not handled within 30 days, we proceed with legal action." Ryan barked, "You can't do that." I looked at him. "Watch me." My dad's fists clenched. "So that's it? You're suing your own family?" I tilted my head. "You want to talk about choices? You chose to commit fraud. You chose to gamble my future. Now you get consequences." Lily, who had been quiet the entire time, looked at Ryan like she was seeing him for the first time. "Ryan, is this true?" Ryan's eyes darted. "Babe, she's exaggerating." Lily pulled her hand away from his. "Are you serious?" My mom reached for Lily's arm, desperate. "It's complicated." "It's not complicated," Lily snapped, voice shaking. "It's stealing." That's when the room shifted. Because the consequences weren't just legal. They were social, reputational. The mask was slipping, and everyone could see the rot underneath. My dad's voice broke, furious and pleading at the same time. "After everything we've done for you." I cut him off, softly. "What you've done to me." Then I picked up my bag. My mom's tears fell now, real looking, sliding down her cheeks. "Please, don't do this. We can fix it." I paused at the doorway and looked back at the table. The candlelight made everyone look older, smaller, less powerful. I said, "You told me you chose to be replaced, but you're wrong." I pointed at the deed. "You can't replace me in a house I own." I pointed at the bank letter. "You can't replace me in a life you tried to sabotage." Then I looked at my mom and dad, voice calm like a verdict. "You didn't lose me when I moved away," I said. "You lost me when you decided I was only valuable when I was useful." And I walked out. My hands were trembling in the cool night air, but my chest felt lighter, like I'd been carrying their expectations like bricks, and I'd finally set them down. In the weeks after that dinner, the fallout hit like dominoes. My aunt called me first, her voice soft. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't know." My uncle texted, "Proud of you for standing up." Then Lily messaged me, asking for the truth, because Ryan was spinning stories. I sent her exactly what I had: documents, dates, proof. 2 days later, she broke up with him. Ryan posted vague quotes on social media about snakes and betrayal. My mom called me crying, saying I was destroying the family. My dad left me a voicemail that was mostly silence and heavy breathing, like he wanted me to hear his anger through the phone. But here's what shocked me. The bank moved fast. Once my lawyer sent the fraud claim with the signature verification, the bank launched an investigation. And guess what? The signatures weren't just similar. They were traced. My mom's handwriting showed up on more than one form. My dad had signed as witness. Ryan had signed as borrower, smiling while he did it. They had built a little fraud triangle and assumed I'd never have the courage to knock it down. Then the real twist landed. During the investigation, we discovered something even bigger than the loan. My parents had been trying to refinance the house, and they couldn't, because my name was on the deed, which meant they needed my signature, and they didn't have it. So they planned that dinner with the real estate agent to pressure me, to shame me in front of family, to make me feel like the outsider until I signed whatever they put in front of me just to belong again. That was why they invited me. Not for love, for ink. When Denise explained that, I sat in my car outside my office and stared at the steering wheel for a long time. Because the cruelty wasn't impulsive. It was strategic, planned. And that realization hurt, but it also freed me. Because you can't fix something that's built on manipulation. You can only leave it. Tell me, how do you forgive someone who invited you to dinner to trick you into signing away your own protection? My parents tried to negotiate once the pressure hit.
My mom showed up at my apartment unannounced, wearing the same cardigan she always wore when she wanted to look harmless. I opened the door and she immediately burst into tears. "I raised you," she sobbed. "I love you." I stood there, arms crossed, not cold, just done. "Then why did you do it?" I asked. She wiped her cheeks. "We were scared. Ryan, he needed help, and we thought, you're strong, you can handle things. You always have."
I stared at her. "So you punished me for being capable?" She flinched like I slapped her. My mom whispered, "We didn't mean to replace you." I laughed softly. "You did. You just didn't think I'd notice." She reached for my hand. I stepped back. "If you drop the legal action," she said quickly, we'll apologize. We'll make things right." I tilted my head. "With words?" Her mouth opened, closed. I shook my head. "No, make it right with actions." She whispered, "What do you want?" I took a breath. "I want my name removed from the loan. I want my credit repaired. I want repayment for every dollar tied to fraud. And if you want to keep the house, I want a buyout of my share at fair value." My mom stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "A buyout?" "Yes," I said calmly, "because I'm not your emergency fund. I'm not Ryan's backup plan, and I'm not signing away half a house so you can hand it to him like a prize." Her lips trembled. "You'd take the house from us?" I leaned closer, voice low. "You already tried to take it from me." My mom left my apartment that day without a hug. 2 months later, they agreed. Not because they suddenly understood, because they were cornered. The bank required the loan to be restructured. Ryan had to take full responsibility, or the account would default with fraud charges attached. My parents refinanced with conditions. My name had to be addressed, so they bought out my share. The check arrived on a Thursday, thick envelope, official seals. I held it in my hands and felt weird. Not joy, not victory laughter, just a quiet, heavy peace. Because money doesn't undo betrayal, but it does restore options. I used part of it to pay off my student loans. I used part of it to build savings, real savings, not family bailout money. And I used a small part of it for something symbolic. I bought myself a new bed, because I was tired of sleeping on couches, literally and emotionally. Ryan didn't speak to me after that. My dad didn't either. My mom sent one text that said, "Hope you're happy." I stared at it for a long time, then typed back, "I'm not happy. I'm free." And that was the moment I realized the win wasn't the money. It was the boundary. It was the fact that I stopped negotiating my worth. A year passed, then another. My life filled up in ways I never expected once I stopped trying to fit into a family that only loved me when I stayed small. I got promoted. I made friends who celebrated me with jealousy. I built routines. Sunday mornings at a coffee shop, long walks with headphones, quiet dinners where nobody weaponized the word family. Sometimes, late at night, I'd still feel the ache. Because no matter how strong you are, losing your parents emotionally feels like a bruise you can't fully heal. But then I'd remember the dining room table, the toast, the way they smiled when they thought I was powerless. And I'd remind myself, they didn't break me. They revealed themselves. The last time I saw my parents was at my grandmother's funeral. I stood near the back of the chapel, black dress, hands clasped, heart heavy. My mom looked smaller, older. My dad's hair had more gray than I remembered. Ryan stood beside them, arms crossed, eyes hard. When the service ended, people drifted outside into the cold air. My breath came out in little clouds. My mom approached me slowly, like she wasn't sure if I'd bite. She said my name, barely audible. I looked at her. "Hi." Her eyes shimmered. "She loved you," she whispered, meaning my grandmother. I nodded. "I know." My mom swallowed. I didn't know she put you on the deed." I held her gaze. "She did, because she knew." My mom flinched. My dad walked up then, stiff and proud, even in grief. He stared at me like I was an enemy he couldn't defeat. He said, "You got what you wanted." I exhaled slowly. "No," I said. "I got what I needed." Ryan scoffed under his breath. "Must be nice playing victim." I turned to him, calm. "Must be exhausting, pretending you didn't do anything wrong." His face reddened, but he didn't reply. My mom's voice cracked. Can we start over?" That question, if you've ever wanted it from someone who hurt you, you know how dangerous it is. Because it sounds like hope, but it can also be a trap. I looked at her and felt something unexpected. Not rage, not softness, just truth. I said, "Starting over requires honesty. It requires accountability. And you've never given me that."
My mom's tears spilled. I'm sorry. I believed she was sorry for the consequences. I wasn't sure she was sorry for the choice. So I said, I hope you heal, but I'm not coming back to be your cushion. My dad's jaw tightened. So you're just done? I nodded once. Yes. And then I walked away from them in the parking lot, gravel crunching under my shoes, winter wind cutting through my coat. It hurt, but it didn't break me, because I wasn't leaving to punish them. I was leaving to protect myself.
Now, here's the part I want you to sit with. People love to say, blood is thicker than water. But nobody talks about what happens when blood is also poison, when family is just a word used to control you. My parents told me, you chose to move away, you chose to be replaced. But the truth? They replaced me the moment I stopped being convenient. They left first, emotionally, morally, spiritually. I just finally stopped chasing them. And if you've ever been made to feel like your love was conditional, like you had to earn your place, like your success made you the villain, I need you to hear this. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't staying. It's walking away with your dignity still intact. So tell me, would you forgive them, or would you walk away like I did? Because me, I didn't just move away. I moved forward. And I never let anyone tell me I was replaceable again.